Now, voters in Africa's most populous country, Nigeria, will head to the polls this week to choose their next president amid mounting unhappiness in the country due to, amongst others, increasing political instability and economic hardship. Let's look at who the frontrunners are and some of the major campaign issues. Political analyst Martin Ihembe joins us from Ondo State in Nigeria. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. It's crunch time, I suppose. I mean, looking at some of the candidates going out to try woo voters this weekend, whatever is going to happen in the next few hours is going to change so much about the country. Talk to us about who the front runners are and why they stand a chance to make a difference in Nigeria.
Good afternoon, Nicole. Thank you for having me on the show. Nigeria is heading for a critical election, what there is something political scientists call a critical election, where there is intensity of involvement of the electorate and the realignment among the electorate and the elites, as the case is. And that is what we are facing currently, because the frontliners represent the ethno-regional division that we have in the country. We have Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who was the former vice president to Olusegun Obasanjo when the Fourth Republic started in 1999. And Atiku has been in the race since the 90s. He's been aspiring to become the president of Nigeria for almost 30 years now. The closest he has come was to be the vice president to the former president Olusegun Obasanjo. So his ethnicity here too is an issue because he represents the House of Fulani, and that section of the country has governed Nigeria because the current president too comes from that ethnicity as well. Then we have former Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was the former governor of Lagos State. He governed for 2 terms. Before he's a power broker, he was a powerful force that led to the current ruling party, which is an amalgamation of smaller parties and all of that. So he is a strong power broker too. Then you have someone who people never expected. He's like a game changer in the race. Former governor of a state in southeastern part of the country, Mr. Peter Obi. Peter Obi served 2 terms in Anambra State and governed fairly well. He bequeathed a state that was economically strong, stable, and all of that. Then there is a 4th person who really, I think, is not that strong in my estimation, Alhaji Rabi Musa Kwankwaso. He's equally House of Fulani from Kano State. So, by my assessment as a political scientist, what is more important to us Nigerians is what you call the 3 C's of our leadership, which is character, competence, and capacity, if you're going to assess these candidates. In terms of character, in our opinion, the first 2 I mentioned, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and former Governor Asiwaju, there is a character deficit, former Atiku, because it's people, it's believed that they make wealth out of the state, sort of. Peter Obi has been a consummate businessman, and his wealth is from the private sector, and he has never held any public office. So there is that perception that Peter Obi, from the young voters, that his candidacy or his participation in the race has been able to trigger that he is someone who can be given the opportunity to govern and he will be able to deliver on what our Nigerians really expect at the moment from the kind of
talking about character, pardon me, just let me interrupt you there. You mentioned Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and I know that a lot has been said about his campaign slogan, which is Emi Lokan, which means it's my turn to be president in the Yoruba language. Some saying that it shows a sense of entitlement. Is that the sentiment that's being carried throughout Nigeria when, he's come out to say that it's his turn?
Yes, there is a much deeper history to the concept of Emilokon. before the president. It was an outburst, actually. It was an outburst because he felt his party that he was instrumental in giving its birth was not giving him the kind of support he needed, because he was instrumental to the emergence of the current president. So the president had a political platform. He led the ANPP that he contested for presidency in 2007 and 2011. In fact, the current president started in 2003, 2007, and 2011. So he was able to get the support from a particular region of the country, which is the northwestern part of the country. So at a certain point in time, the current Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which you mentioned, collapsed his political structure into forming a political party. So the current president collapsed his CPC, Congress for Progressive Change. Bola Ahmed Tinubu brought his ACN, which is the Action Congress of Nigeria. And then you have ABGA. And that sort of alliance was very important and central to the emergence of President Muhammadu Buhari as president as we have it today. So the expectation from Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that the party should give him the same support, a kind of gesture he extended to the current president. And when the body language of the president appeared not to sort of be siding the emergence of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he busted out. And the Milocon is that it is my own turn, that kind of sense of entitlement, and we didn't resonate well with most Nigerians. Is it an issue of yes? And the terms, something that you just mentioned, is an early consensus in Nigeria that power should rotate between the southern and northern part of the region. And if we were to go by virtue of the turn sort of thing, it shouldn't really be a Yoruba presidency where Bola Ahmed Tinubu comes from. It should be an Igbo presidency, because the House of Fulani have governed the country for 8 years. A Yoruba man, Olusegun Obasanjo, has governed the country for another 8 years, and currently you have a Yoruba man who is a vice president. And the whole idea of having this ethnic settlement is you need to have a state before you can think about governing. And if some people don't feel a sense of inclusion, you have problem of governing. Even if you do, you become the president. So by virtue of the Emiloko, it was not received in Nigeria in other sections that Tinubu should be. And then age is equally not counting on his side. He doesn't look healthy. All of those things are serious campaign issues as we head into the presidential elections. So these candidates, yes, Emiloko is a force that collapses structure into the current APC that was responsible for Buhari becoming the president. But from what we are seeing, I don't think he has the national support. He might be popular in southwestern Nigeria, but of course you need more than southwestern Nigeria to govern Nigeria. You need to get votes from the southeastern part of the country, which is a region dominated by the Igbos. You need to have southern part of the country, which is the Niger Delta territory of the country that holds the mainstay of Nigeria's economy. And then you need north central, of course. You need northwest, you need northeast. So it's beyond southeast, you know.
You speak about the three C's. I hope that as you respond, you will be more audible. Character, competence, and capacity. Is there competency and capacity with some of the other candidates, I mean, Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, when it comes to some of the pressing issues like the economy and, of course, Boko Haram? Boko Haram has really been really important when Buhari came into office, the promises he made, and it seems to have been worse.
Yes, this insecurity situation is deteriorating, especially under the current president. It has deteriorated seriously. So in terms of character, you know, all of the frontliners, we have their dossier, sort of. Nigerians have their dossier. They've governed at one aspect or at one level or the other. Atiku has been vice president when the Fourth Republic came in. As vice president, what did he do? There is this notion in Nigeria that he succeeded in enriching himself. Sort of, he made so much money from government because he headed the National Privatization Council. He was a chairman that supervised the selling of national assets when the Obasanjo administration decided that it wanted to implement the neoliberal economic policy of rolling back the frontiers of the state and allowing market forces to determine. So Through the privatization process, Atiku supervised that. And it's public knowledge in Nigeria, which is why some section of the voting population don't like his candidacy. You were there, what did you do? You succeeded in enriching yourself, sort of. But he has social capital, he's known around the country. He has
unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave it there for now. And thank you for your time, political analyst Martin Ihembe, joining us from the Ondo State in Nigeria. The connection not so great, but of course giving some important information ahead of those elections, hotly contested elections in Nigeria.